Hi everyone and welcome. In today's video we're going to be doing a short summary of the story Fetch. Fetch is the second book in the Fazbear Frights series and the first story of the book. If it's been a while since you've read the book and just need a quick recap, this video is perfect for you. I will be telling the stories in the way they are in the timeline, not how the book presents them, so any flashbacks will be told at the point in the story where they're happening. In Greg's science class he is learning about how plants and objects and people can communicate with each other telepathically. The story describes this in much more detail, but for this summary we're just going to keep things nice and simple. When Greg's at home he feels a pull. Something's calling him but he doesn't know what it is. Maybe it's the pizzeria. Greg doesn't know why, but whatever's calling him is strong, so him and his friends decide to go and explore to find what it is. What they find is an old abandoned pizzeria. None of them have any idea what the place is and have no memory of why it's abandoned. They make lots of comments about how strange it is this place is abandoned. They say they live in a nice tourist area, so for something like this to be abandoned is really strange. When they're inside, the weather really picks up and it's really thundering and raining loud outside. They see the stage and the curtains closed, but they're all too scared to have a look. When they're wandering around more, they find an old prize counter, and they're all really excited that they found all these old prizes and rare items. But what Greg sees is Fetch. He's really interested in what this old robot dog is. He picks it up and has a look, and all his friends tell him it's not going to work and he should just put it down. But ignoring them, he continues to mess around with it. After a while, he accidentally switches it on. Looking around the room and at the ceiling, Greg notices that there's a big stain above the ceiling where Fetch has been sat. The rest of the building seems fine despite its age and being abandoned, but just above Fetch there is a dark stain on the ceiling. Eventually they all cycle home. The storm has really picked up since then, so when Greg gets home his uncle has been setting up a generator for his house. It seems all the power in his neighbourhood has been cut out. Greg really admires his uncle. He's rich, he's very happy, and he just relates a lot with Greg, and Greg really seems to look up to him. The next day in school, Greg gets a message from a number he doesn't know. The message says, "Hello Greg, how are you?" Greg's confused but thinks it's one of his friends playing a prank. Greg asks who this is, and the response says Fetch. He thinks it's his friend still, so he carries on, messaging Fetch. Fetch asks, "Why did you leave?" Greg rolls his eyes saying you're hilarious, thinking it's his friend. And then Fetch says, "Thank you, now you answer." Greg turns around and sees all his friends stood there. Then he realises, maybe it's not them. Fetch helps Greg for the following days, helping him learn Spanish and with his homework and lots of other things. It seems Fetch can almost read Greg's mind. A few days later, Greg's babysitting his neighbour's kid, and his uncle shows up. Greg's having a good time with both of them, but then the kid sees a plastic spider on the floor and gets really scared, so Greg puts it in a bag and throws it outside and buries it, and his uncle says he did a really good job babysitting, and that makes Greg really happy. He really likes his uncle. But a few days later, Greg and his friends get made fun of by the school bully, and they overhear him saying to one of his other friends that he's really scared of spiders. So Greg has the idea to dig up this spider and then scare the bully with it. But when he gets home, he finds that the spider is in the plastic bag on his doorstep, and it has teeth marks in. He realises it's Fetch, but this really scares him. What could happen now? He realises that Fetch is out there somewhere, and that terrifies him. One day when Greg was walking home, his neighbour's dog tried to attack him. He got really scared and it was a close call, but he managed to get inside safe. He messages all his friends about this, terrified, and everything seems to be okay. Until the next day when Greg wakes up and goes outside, he finds the neighbour's dog, but it's dead, and it's positioned against his bike, unnaturally. Something must have put it here. They go back to the pizzeria, but Fetch isn't there anymore. Where could he be? Laying in bed, Greg wants to know how to make some money. He spends about an hour looking up different ways he can make money until he gets frustrated when he realises how difficult it is. Then he sends a message to his uncle asking for help. He says, "I need your magic finger of luck." Greg's uncle always says he has the magic finger of luck, and every time he says it, he seems to win at whatever he's doing. Greg goes to sleep, but he feels like he's forgot something. Waking up in the middle of the night, he realises what he's done. He asked for the magic finger of luck, and knowing Fetch, that's exactly what he will bring. He gets ready and rushes outside so he can warn his uncle before anything bad happens, but when he opens the door, his uncle's finger is on the doormat. He picks it up and puts it in his pocket, and he's really upset about what he's done. And then his mum comes down the stairs to tell him the bad news that his uncle has been attacked by a wild dog. Greg feels so guilty about what he's done. He needs to make this right. He goes into his garden and sees Fetch hiding in the bushes. Without a second thought, Greg picks up a baseball bat and beats Fetch into a pile of mechanical pieces on the floor and buries him in the sand. Has Greg done it? Is Fetch now dead? Is he free? Later that day, in Greg's science class, he gets paired up with his crush. He has had a crush on this girl for several years, and he's so happy to realise that he gets to do the work with her. It seems this girl, Kimberly, has exactly the same interests as Greg, and this is a dream come true for him. They really seem to get along well. When at home, Greg wishes something along the lines that he could be with Kimberly, and then he goes to get a shower from the long day. Whilst in the shower, he realises that Fetch can read his mind. So does that mean? He quickly rushes over to Kimberly's house and waits for her to come home. He needs to make sure she's okay and Fetch isn't there. When she comes home, her family sees him in the bush hiding and call the police immediately because they're absolutely terrified. He tries to explain himself, but to them he sounds out of his mind. His parents don't understand, they don't believe him, and he goes home to have another shower to wash away the troubles of the day. Then, when he opens the door, he sees something rolled up in a rug with red liquid leaking out. It can't be, can it? Then he gets a message from his phone saying, "See you." So that's pretty much the whole summary of Fetch. It's a pretty sad book. I mean, it's very sad. All the books in the Fazbear Frights series are just sad. But it's also pretty creepy to think about. There's always someone out there, always listening. So if you really liked this video idea, please let me know. I'll do this again more. It's quite fun doing this little summary. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next Friday. And remember, stay theorizing.